Man, we already know that this interview is going to be a good one. So, what is going on, y'all? It is wicked to see you guys again, man. And I really hope every single one of you is doing good out there, baby. For real. Awesome to see you guys, man. I hope it's going smooth, that your week is going nice. And speaking of going nice, we have Bugzy Malone on Minutes With. I think this one's going to be pretty interesting. I've said before, Bugsy Malone to me is one of those people that you can just kind of look at and just get motivated by off of his music, what he talks about. And since we do know he's pretty personable in his music, we do know a lot of the stuff that he's been through. It's just nice to see somebody that can go through such pain that he has and now obviously look at him doing quite well. But it's going to be interesting to listen to this interview because I heard right off the top as I clicked on it, he was talking about his friend Dane, who I've heard him mention a few times in his tracks, so I'm pretty sure who has passed away. So it's going to be deep off the jump, but big shout out to you guys. No more chit chat out of me, and let's get into it, man. Come on. Oh, it helps if I press play. My bad, y'all.
Dane was my last best friend. Dane, sake. Other than my ex-girlfriend, Dane was the last person that I trusted, And I couldn't get him back. I couldn't get him back in time. And now he's gone.
I didn't expect it like that.
I grew up in an area called Crumsall, and life growing up was pretty interesting, really. In a way whereby my mum was doing her best to get me away from what was kind of going on in Manchester at the time, which was a gang war. So I had family members that was involved in that. And yeah, I think my mum was trying to shelter me from it. It's interesting, really, because there was this one time.
That's what I've said before. That's why I don't really respect a lot of rappers over here, is because a lot of them, they went looking for that type of lifestyle where it's unfortunate that people like him, Potter, Morrison, I can name a lot of them, they're born into it, which, how do you escape that when it's all you know and it's all the people around you know?
And yeah, I think my mum was trying to shelter me from it. It's interesting, really, because there was this one time where I remember getting attacked as a little kid. I always bring it up to my mum, but she says it didn't happen. She said she was watching me out the window. But it was a little bit rough. And then we moved from there. We moved to a place called Sedgley Park. I'm not sure exactly what was happening, but there was some trouble there. We lived in like a flat. We lived on the second floor. There must have been problems with this drug dealing family. So that kind of kicked off. And from memory, what happened is they was in our flat one time, and the guy tried to drop a glass cabinet on me, and it just missed. And my mum said I was brave, and I just ran over it and went into the house. That must have been the last straw of some discrepancy.
Kid, man.
My mum's phoned my uncles. My uncles have turned up, and and the guy got mangled, And it's one of my earliest memories. I remember seeing it out of. I've got a song. What song have I got? I've got a song called The Van Gogh Effect, and I called it The Van Gogh Effect because I'm trying to paint pictures with words to explain the situation.
He mentions him a lot.
And just as a kid, I remember hearing the situation. I just heard the banging and the smashing and the screaming and that. I reckon I was too young to know what I was seeing. And then that's that. And then we moved Then we moved to an area called Prestwich.
Where was your dad at this point?
Dad went around, had a stepdad from about 18 months old. So he was there, but he was working all the time.
Did you get on with him?
When I was young, yeah. When I was young, there was a period of time where everyone just got on. And my little sister was born. She's about 5 years younger than me. And then as the years went on...
He's mentioned the story about her as well.
There was big fallouts in the house. it felt like my mum and my stepdad was breaking up for years, you know, and there was a lot of arguments and that kind of thing.
Were you asking questions about your dad as well at this point?
Yeah, like as a kid, the kids in school were saying like, how come you're black and your dad's white? You know what I mean? Obviously, I knew my dad. I'd been introduced to him, but I don't know if I was interested in the technicalities around it. You know, it just kind of was what it was. My stepdad, I loved him as a dad. He took me to football training. He got me Christmas presents. Without him, I wouldn't have really got Christmas presents. My real dad wasn't like that, you know. But then what happened was
Shout out to the stepdads.
he started to get quite nasty towards me. I think in school, because we moved to Prestwich, I was looking different. Got a song called MEM1. I say I'm in school looking like Wesley Snipes. Ben Sherman's in a second-hand bike. You get me? So the other kids was different to me. They had a different family life. All of North Manchester's kind of like that. It's kind of mixed. A lot of mixed race, a lot of black, African, Jamaican, Asian, Indian, Pakistani, Irish, a lot of Irish. Like in my first school, no one was really poor. And people weren't necessarily rich, but they weren't like us. I'd stumbled across some kids that was like come and chill with us on this estate. And one of the kids pulls out a flipping screwdriver and starts stabbing me.
This happened when he was a kid.
In my legs and that. And I had this second-hand bike flipping. I don't know if you remember the days when Tesco's used to have like little advertisements. You could buy a bike, 40 quid, second-hand, phone them up. So I had this little mountain bike. And they pulled my bike off me, they smashed it up. I got my bike, I had to run off basically. I found it quite embarrassing. In fact, I did find it embarrassing and I never told my family. I just hid in the pants that I'd been stabbed in. Hid in the fact that my leg was bleeding. I remember it being damp for days and sticking to my pants and all that.
I understand, wife. I wonder what that would be like. I understand that he didn't want to say anything. But, I don't know, just at the same time, I suppose with the family, you know if you say something, it's going to bring much more drama. And he probably just wanted it to let it go again, being embarrassed, didn't want to talk about it.
To tell you the story of that situation, it's quite interesting. So that kid that stabs me is in year 9 or year 8 when I'm just coming into year 7. And then by the time I got into school, a year went by when you're just a kid in school, making friends or whatever, and then by about year 8, year 9, this kid's one of the toughest kids in the school now. He barges into me in the corridor, and an argument kicks off. But by this time, it's kicking off at home. It's getting quite violent at home. What also happened in that 6 weeks holidays, or just after the 6 weeks holidays, my stepdad beat me up. And he used to do boxing, so he beat me up pretty bad.
And that had never happened before?
Not really, do you know what I mean? He'd been abusive and that. But again, I can only put the words abusive on it years later. Because really, I loved him. And really, he was just telling me off.
Man.
But when I look at now the way parents treat kids, it was a bit too far, do you know what I mean? He was angry for whatever he'd been through in life. He stands up to confront me. And just being in shock as a kid, I've pushed him back. And he's just cracked me. And that was that. He beat me up pretty bad.
But
my mum was
year
in the
7?
room, and my mum let him do it and walked out the room.
Wow.
I'm 11 or 12. I could never, and probably can still never wrap my mind around how you would let an 11, 12-year-old kid get beat up.
By a grown
and leave
man.
it to happen. I just felt like...
Wow. That's a shame, man. That even his mom didn't even help him in that situation. But, maybe... No, I was gonna say maybe he was abusing her too, but still... Damn, man, to let it happen?
And he'd shown me that. So I become a lone wolf. And that was that. That was that, really. And then there was a period of time... What happened in this period of time was... Just to rattle through it. I find it quite deep, you know? I tried to kill myself. My stepdad finds me, I'm like hanging off this flipping thing. He gets me down, he's there for me and that. I go into school, the kid that stabbed me, we get into an argument, he wants me a fight, I say I'll have you a fight. Like, he's cool, he knows how to kick off. I don't know how to kick off, but I know I'm willing to fight. And I've punched my punch bag when I'm in a bad mood, so I'm like ready to go. I turn up onto his estate, I have him a fight, and I win this fight. And there was a moment when I was fighting him, I rang one of my friends who was like a kickboxer at the time, and his brother was in the streets already. Everyone's like shouting the guy as if to say I'm there. So I turn to my friend, I say, I'm saying, hit me in the chest. To gas me up to have this fight, he starts hitting me in the chest and that. If anything, it just scared me more for having this fight, because I thought if that's what punches feel like, I'm in trouble. But then luckily the guy just kind of come out of nowhere, tried to hit me. Obviously my stepdad had taught me to duck and he taught me to punch. So I duck and I punch this guy and he flew back. Long story short, I beat him in a fight. And it was just a moment in a fight, yeah. You ever seen The Mask, Jim Carrey? He's on a fight in the Mask, yeah. Here's how much of a nerd I was backwards at them times. Jim Carrey's fighting and he starts beating this guy. And he stops, he goes, I'm winning. And like that happened to me in a fight, like I'm on top of this guy. And I didn't know my temper was so bad, all the things that had been happening to me at home meant I had a bad temper, but I never really let it out, you know? We just kept fighting, and there was a point where he like bit my arm and he bit my face.
What the hell?
I just kind of pulled him off me and kept fighting.
It's a street fight, but dang.
And then I bit him back and then I gouged his eyes. When I gouged his eyes, he screamed. But when he bit me, I didn't scream. So then I started to understand it was tough, you know? I started to understand that, like, I could look after myself. And I remember one night on a park, there was a gang called LHG, Little Hill Gang, from where I'm originally from, you know, and where my family's from. But I don't know none of these kids. I've maybe come across them with my uncle, but I've never chilled with them. And they used to just come on a park, they used to beat everybody up, and they used to flipping rob everybody's stuff and bounce. And when he came this night, I was like, "Yous aren't robbing me," because I was just angry and I just wanted to fight and flipping get into problems. Anyway, me and this one kid, we get into an argument. I'm saying, "You're not robbing me." I had a mate that was there that I remember from school. He had a little comb over. I said, "No, don't run." He didn't run. And then as me and this kid are arguing, and he can see I'm not scared of him, he pulls out a gun. And as he pulls out this gun, I've only at this point seen guns on television.
I was gonna say.
So I don't understand the ramifications of getting shot, you know? So I said, "Put that down, come on the grass and I'll smack you already." And he's freaking him out that I'm not scared. Really, I'm naive. He's like,
Really,
"I'm from
naive,
Cheetah Mill." I'm from Cheetah Mill. Crumsall, where my first house was, is next to Cheetah Mill. All my family's from Cheetah Mill. So I started naming all. He's like, "Who do you know from Cheetah Mill?" So I started naming even the straight members in my family. And then when I got to a certain uncle's name, he classed my uncle as his uncle as well, because of my uncle's position in the hood. Everyone just respected him. He'd give the kids money and that kind of thing. And that was that. That's how I ended up in a gang. Me and this kid made friends.
Just like that.
Me and this kid started chilling, and he was interested in making some dough and looking after himself as well. And that was that. You know, so quite quickly I was making myself at home in the gang. You know, I had nowhere to live. My household was dysfunctional, so I understood everybody's home situation, which is where, when you see a lot of the stabbings and all that going on the street, that's where it really kind of stems from, is the household being all over the gaff. The gang became my family, you know, and I loved them, and I would have died for them. Some of these kids was rougher than me, tougher than me, you know, cooler than me. But when I look back now, a lot of their mums loved them, so they had love at home. And I just didn't have access to that.
Difference, man.
So when they would go home and have like a family situation, I'd be like tagging along with people, which would just mean I was on the streets longer than other people, and I would just get arrested a lot. But I remember being in a few occasions where people have been stabbed to death, you know, and you're just there. Between that and understanding the full story of my uncle, MEN1, I'm talking about, my uncle's face got tore out by the pellets of a shotgun like Frankenstein.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
like, as you're hearing your uncle's story, and really I was trying to be like him. I didn't have a father figure to look up to. I didn't respect my stepdad anymore. My real dad wasn't
Can't
there
say
for
I
me.
blame him, man.
He didn't care. He treated my mum bad. I didn't like it. So my uncle became like
Same thing Ocean Wisdom
the
said.
guy that I really looked up to. So I was hearing stories about him, plus spending time with him. And I got caught slipping a few times. I got my tooth punched out off an older guy one night. Had a couple of fights, lost a couple of fights with a couple of older guys. Got chased with guys trying to shoot us. Got arrested on attempted murder charge.
I do remember
Nearly
that.
done a long time in jail. So a lot was going wrong because I wasn't organised, you know? And then the more that I started to understand the way that my uncle had built what he'd built, the more I understood that I wasn't being serious about the whole thing, you know? A long story short, my uncle had tried to call a truce between two guys. The two guys had turned up. No one was supposed to bring weapons. One guy brought a weapon. He blows the other guy's brains out in my uncle's house. And that took an effect on my uncle's mental health. So then he said he was flipping lay with the guy, holding his head together, waiting for the ambulance to come. But at that time, my uncle's mental health was just kind of up and down and that. So he used to snap. And when he used to snap, he would snap bad. And I remember there was this machete in the kitchen with like what looked like dried blood on it. And flipping, I've said the wrong thing, and he snaps. I actually speak about this in my latest album, in my last freestyle. I say, when he pulled the machete out, I really could have pissed my pants. But I was young, okay?
Yeah.
Because I'm 15, it all happened in this short period of time. And he sends my cousin to go and get this machete. Because what he says is my punishment is I've got to lose a finger. My cousin goes in, obviously he's scared and he likes me, he don't want me to get chopped. You know, and my uncle had done certain things, so everybody's really worried, you know. So then my uncle picks me up and slams me through a table. And, like, puts his foot on my head. I'm like flipping just on the floor. I'm having to like grab myself so I don't flip and piss my pants. Anyway, he goes in, he gets this machete. He says, put your hand on the Bible. Put my hand on the Bible, and he goes to chop my hand. I pull my hand out, I run away. And for me, just something changed in me, man. From that moment on, I stopped trusting anybody. You know, and then what happens in your gang is your gang ends up turning on you. You're all turning on each other. No one's loyal in that life. And I just kind of become like a lone wolf. I had like one or two friends. And after that, I just decided like I wasn't going to be f***ed with again. I earned some money, I saved some money. But then I got depressed. I had a boxing match when I went jail when I was 16. Was in jail representing Manchester. I remember just being sat in jail and feeling lucky that I didn't get much longer.
How much did they give you?
Just under a year. 16. You're seeing people get 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. So in your head you think, yeah, if I do 2 or 3, I'll still have a life when I get out. You just don't want to do a life sentence, and that. It almost felt like jail kind of saved my life because it pulled me out of the streets when it was getting quite
people say that before.
chaotic. And I made a plan from jail to succeed. I had to reconsider what I was trying to be a street guy for. What had happened is I'd got carried away in the...
I had to reconsider what I was trying to be a street guy for. That's what I love about this guy, man. Him, again, I'll mention Potter too. They're just deeper than everybody else, man. So many people don't take the time to actually think and look inward. That's why I love people that do. Or I love people that do, but that's also why I love artists that do. Because there's so much more going on to the actions that you're doing without you realizing it if you never take that self-reflection.
I was trying to be a street guy for. What had happened is I'd got carried away in the lifestyle of being a gang member. And what that basically is you hurt people try and hurt you, somebody dies for no reason. And I started to understand, like, actually I'm a hustler. And then when as I had the time to think, I thought, like, why am I hustling? I thought I'm hustling because my household's hell. Where I come from, there's no carpets, it's smelly, there's arguments all the time over dough. And actually I thought, like, I'm not interested in losing. I already had trust issues because of my family. So that sort of made me stop trusting anybody to be in control of my future. So it's at that point I decided to become the designer of my own destiny, you know?
Yes, sir. 100%, man. That's creepy, dude. I've literally said that to myself before. Part of the reason why I don't really hang around people too much is because of that reason right there. Anything I build, I want it to be mine. I never want to be put in the position again where something, because of somebody else, something that I have will be taken away from me. And I don't mean like materialistic things. I mean like bigger picture things, like in life, you know what I mean? And I'm not 100% there yet, but of course, I'm much happier being there than where I was, because I find so many people have a fear of being alone, whether it's with somebody or in a relationship sense, or even just as like a friend. They're petrified of having to do something by themselves, which can be a bad thing, because if all you have around you are just negative people and people who have a bad view of how the world is, you never really, and not even such a bad view of how the world is, but if their outlook and their plans for life are completely different than yours, it's very hard to break away from that when you want to do something different without having to be looked at as, you know, somebody who's changing for the worst when you're trying to become better. I love how he said that, man. I had to rethink of why I wanted to be a gangster. That's awesome.
I decided to plan it out and how it was going to look. So then that's what made me pursue music.
I just wanted to get to a place where we're talking about your dad again, because you thought about fixing that with your real dad.
I never really spoke to him again. In fact, I fell off my motorbike, I had a bike accident, I had bleeding on the brain and whatever. And after it happened, the news was reporting it like I was dying. And he phoned me. And when I woke up on a hospital bed, the nurse was like, "Your dad's phoned." So I'm thinking, which dad's this? Because I didn't speak to any of them. And when we had the conversation, I said, "Look, by the way, it's over between us." I said, even if they come back to you and say I'm dying, don't come looking for me, and I won't come looking for you. And that's what I had to do. I had to take my emotional investment out of these dysfunctional people that was going to pull me down into hell with them.
Damn, bro. I had to take... What did he just say, bro? Let me hear that again.
Out of these dysfunctional people.
I didn't even rewind it far enough. Oh, my Lord, bro. That is incredible. Again, Ocean Wisdom has also mentioned that. He said in the song Voices in My Head, he talks about how he had to break up with his girlfriend. He had to cut off his dad. Any negative person around him, he did not want them near him. And same with him, man. His dad's checking on him because he heard he's dying. Funny how they never call beforehand. And that's what Bugsy is saying. Like, even if I do die, I still don't want you coming around.
Don't come looking for me, and I won't come looking for you. And that's what I had to do. I had to take my emotional investment out of these dysfunctional people that was going to pull me down into hell with them.
Just early stage of the music career, like where it started.
Yeah, like I live in this guy's house, and he had a brother that lived in London. His brother come from London. I remember being in the kitchen. I feel so silly saying these things out loud. I've never even said these things out loud. And because I've been kicked out of my house, I'm in the kitchen downstairs. Because obviously you feel uncomfortable when you're living in someone's house. There's a mom, a dad, there's brothers in there. You just want to stay out of everybody's way, right? And I'm sad, you know? And my mate's my gang mate. I don't want to go crying to him that I'm sad. I'm just crying to myself in the dark. And the brother must have come down for a drink. He switched on the light and seen me there, you know? And I was doing music at the time. And he was like, "Yo, man, just keep doing your music. You're going to make it," and that. And that's really what them old mixtapes were. I remember a song where the lyrics are something along the lines of, "I used to believe I could trust anybody, but now I feel like I cannot trust a soul." And I'd just be in the bedroom. I had a little box room. And you're literally talking like a bed. And by the way, I'm very grateful that they let me stay. It was an amazing time for me. I had nowhere else to live.
There are circumstances and situations that do stand out, that come out in your music. Like, for example, like, you know, your cousin passed away.
When my little cousin died, Dane, I met him when I was about 8. And what had happened is there was another black family around the corner from my mum's when I was young, and we must have walked past each other in the street, and I was like, Mum, can I go over to his house and chill? And he was called Aaron. We had the same name. So he wasn't my cousin. Because you're 8, 9, whatever the age was, you call each other cousins, right? So then Dane came over from Jamaica when we was about 9. I could relate to Dane more. Aaron had some money and a decent life at the time, but Dane understood struggle like I did. When I got locked up, Dane gets sent back to jail because I wasn't there to look after Dane. So he had to look after. Sorry, mate. So he had to look after himself, and he has a fight with a guy, and he wins the fight, and he sent him back to Jamaica.
Oh, man.
And he sent him back to Jamaica, and they told me that he was. I got out of jail, and I phoned him. Man, I told him what I was gonna. Told him I was gonna bring him home. You know, I said, I'm getting my money up. I'm gonna bring you back. I said, stay out of trouble, man. I said, Jamaica's dangerous. Stay out of trouble. Stay out of trouble, and be careful. You know, and I remember part life 1 year before my career took off. I got told that they fell off the top of a bus and cracked his skull. He had bleeding on the brain.
No
and that
way.
He was, and he'd been in a coma. And then he came out of the coma, and I prayed to God. And this, man, it's real stupid because I didn't understand. I didn't understand the power of faith. I didn't understand the power of belief. I didn't understand the power of God. So I asked if he can survive and he don't have to live like a vegetable, I'd let him live. But if he has to live like a vegetable for the rest of his life, he's got no quality of life, let him go. And then part life came 1 year, and I got called and told that his body couldn't handle it once he come out of the coma. And yeah, he passed away. Dane was my last best friend. You know? Dane was other than my ex-girlfriend, Dane was the last person that I trusted, you know? And I couldn't get him back in time. And now he's gone. People go on like I'm talented, when really all that's happened is I've kept going.
I didn't know his friend passed away like that. Not that it makes it any better, because when it's an accident, sometimes it's even worse.
I'm handsome, people think I'm in good shape. That boy was all of that. So, I'm gonna make it my job to reach into the households of these kids, you know, and offer them some support, and explain to them how it's done. You gotta learn to speak well, you know? Because how can you get your education? Your mum's an alcoholic, your stepdad's battering you. How do you do it? So you're gonna get in trouble. You're gonna have fights. You're gonna end up robbing people. You're gonna end up in a gang. I relate to all, I understand all that. But what I say is, you've got to educate yourself. Find the things that you're interested in. Learn to speak
100%, man.
Build your principles. You're not a scumbag. A lot of my old gang friends, the reason we fell out was I was backing the gang. I was backing my friend because it's like, no one gets to hurt him because he backs me up. So that's why I was in gang violence. I didn't want to hurt no one for no reason. Even though it ended up happening. You end up in these mad robberies and mad situations go down, you know? But then eventually you have to build your own principles and become a better person. Like, people that don't know my music will listen to my music and be like, oh, he just talks about the same thing. And I break down how you transcend that situation. If your mum's on drugs, here's how it looks. If your mum was a prostitute, if your dad was a drug dealer, if your uncles kill people, whatever it is, I understand being there. That's what my music is. That's what my new album is. My new album is the blueprint for real strugglers, you know, because I get so many of these messages that I can't help everybody. So now what I try and do is, with the fact that my mum taught me to paint, and the last good days of my life was spent painting, I just try and take that artistic education, what I've got, and make artwork. That's why I speak down on these other rappers. Really, I got respect for these other rappers. Because the people I'm trying to speak to, they hear the message.
I was a very sensitive kid. And I felt like I had to hide that from a really young age.
Damn, dude, 'cause the people who get it is the people I'm speaking to. Holy crap, man. Like I've said before, man, he is one of the people who I firmly 100% believe deserves every single thing that he has gotten. Shout out to Bugsy, man. Keep doing what you're doing. You're helping hundreds of thousands of people, man. Just the amount of messages that he said he gets, I couldn't even imagine. So shout out to you, and shout out to all of you guys, man. Keep your heads up. Like he said, man, keep moving, keep pushing despite how hard it gets. And of course, once again, I love you guys, and I will catch you in the next one, alright? Peace out, bro. Come on, 0161, baby.